Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. My name is Ellen Diona. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your worship associate for this morning's service featuring the return of Joshua Long. Joshua is an award-winning songwriter, producer, worship leader, public theologian, and environmental activist with a passion for creating music that moves the soul and inspires change. Before our service begins, here are a few announcements. Gather to celebrate the life of Judy Moore-Reels at UUCY on Saturday, May 30th. Visitation begins at 10 a.m., followed by a service at 11 a.m. in person and online, followed by a light reception. Save the date for our LGBT Pride Party on Sunday, June 14th from 11:30 a.m. till 2:30 p.m. in the Carriage House and on the UUCY Labyrinth. There will be tea and coffee, of course, light refreshments, outdoor games and crafts, an open mic, an art installation showcasing young LGBTQ artists, and more. This event is free and open to anyone and everyone. Email pride@uucy.org to get involved. We are also hosting a table at York County Pride on June 13th from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. If you would like to help, please use the time to sign up form at the ttsu.me/York Pride 2026. Please make sure to note important announcements listed on the back of your order of service. Scan the QR codes with your phone for more events, activities, updates, and information for newcomers. Following our time for all ages in today's service, our children and youth will be invited to gather downstairs for religious education classes. For families with very young children who would like childcare during worship, our nursery is also staffed and available downstairs. Whoever you are, whomever you love, we are glad your faith journey has brought you here today. The mission of this congregation is to nurture a loving community, inspire lifelong spiritual and personal growth, and act for a better world. We welcome all of you joining us in person or online. If you are joining for the first time, we invite you to visit our welcome desk to fill out a newcomer card or send an email to welcome@uucy.org so that we might get to know you. Let us now mark this time made sacred by our presence by taking a collective breath. Again, welcome to UUCY.
are the healers. Like the sun we shall rise. Like the sun we shall rise. Like the sun we shall rise.
As Joshua lights the chalice, the symbol of our living tradition here in the sanctuary, you are also invited to light a candle or chalice of your own if you are joining us remotely. This morning, our words are by Barbara J. Pescan. For the beauty of the earth, this spinning blue-green ball, yes. Gaia, mother of everything, we walk gently across your back to come together again in this place, to remember how we can live, to remember who we are, to create how we will be. Gaia, our home, the lap in which we live, welcome us. And now rise as you're willing and able for the opening song, number 1067 in the teal hymnal.
1067, there's a description bulletin. 1067. Hey, sound booth, can you turn on the sound? Hi, we're getting no sound up here, thanks. Nope. You can sing a cappella too, that's fine. We try one more time. I have such a nice little Celtic band cover. It would be fun to sing with it. We can do it with the keyboard. No? Okay, let's do it with the keyboard.
Good morning. My name is Mary Barnes, and I am going to be leading the Time for All Ages. I would like to invite all children and youth and adults who might have lived through this moment in time, who might want to see the beautiful illustrations and help me a little bit with the story. So come on down. Good morning. Don't be shy if you're an adult. Seriously, these pictures are glorious. So I'm going to read and then show pictures because there's a lot of words. Does anybody know what this thing is? It's a rocket. And recently, some people, some astronauts, took a rocket. Do you know where they went? Anybody know? Where'd they go? Around the moon. Well, this book is about the first time man, and they were just men, landed and stepped foot on the moon. And the name of the book is One Giant Leap. Okay. July 20th, 1969. Raise your hand if you were around. Okay, I remember this moment very clearly. 70 miles up, two spaceships, Eagle and Columbia, separate. They orbit in sight of each other one last time. Then the Eagle begins to descend, go down, to where no human has ever been, to the moon. The Eagle is like a gold-speckled bug falling out of the sky, its odd-shaped body plastered with many boxes, its outer walls thinner than human skin. The spaceship's spindly legs poke out as it rides on its back. At 8,000 feet, it tilts and straightens, breaks its descent, slows, and drifts down through space. And this is what it looks like. Sorry about that. Excuse me. The astronauts look out at last. Their names are Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. They stand upright before two small windows. Their eyes widen. Look, rushing up toward them, the moon. It is gray, it is brown, and it's blue-edged. Its billion-year-old landscape is cracked and scarred, the surface gouged and cratered and pitted with tiny holes, like a battlefield from some ancient war. But this is a picture of them looking out the window. Can you see them in the windows? The radio voice crackles from Earth, 240,000 miles away. Eagle, Houston, you are go for landing. Armstrong tenses forward, feeling the seconds tick, aware that the fuel is sinking down towards zero. Timing is everything. His gaze darts between nearby rows of switches and the strange world below. Dark ridges rise like forbidding walls. Spidery shadows creep in the rising sunlight. Boulders loom up as big as cars. He glances again at the flashing dial. Fuel is running short, and now he has to decide, where can he land? Eagle, 90 seconds, that's a minute and a half, of fuel left. Armstrong hears the warning. Now, all he has ever learned is focused on this. Nothing matters but this exact moment. Aldrin's nonstop voice calls out altitude numbers. 40 feet, 35, 30. Down they move, down and down, fast enough to conserve precious fuel, but slow enough to land somewhere safely, he hopes. The eagle dips, hovers, zigs and zags. It dances over its own dark shadow. The seconds tick towards eternity, and time stops. Clouds of moon dust swirl like blackening fog and almost terrifying blindness. And then, with only the very slightest bump, the small craft touches down. Phew. We all say that? Phew. We're all kind of relieved, because they weren't sure. They had never done this before. The eagle has landed. High overhead, Michael Collins listens, but he can't see. They made it. They made it. The Columbia orbits and waits. Collins has waited a lifetime for this. Yet for him, the waiting is not over. In Houston, on Earth, hundreds in the control room break into wild cheers. The first humans on Earth. But in this other place, it is very quiet. It is lunar morning on the sea of tranquility. Armstrong lets out another deep breath and turns. He raises his gloved hand and meets Aldrin's gloved hand halfway. What do you think they're doing? Kind of a what? High five. Exploration time. Armstrong and Aldrin add still more to their spacesuits. Oh, I didn't show you the picture. Sorry. I was so excited that they landed on the moon. So here it is on the moon. There are new overshoes and heavier gloves, a visored helmet to protect against sunlight, and an oxygen-filled backpack thick as a sofa pillow. They pause to gaze out, an endless, mysterious wasteland whose distant hills are as sharply outlined as nearby stones. No water, no wind, no sound, no life at all. Unbelievable. Here they are putting on their new gear. A hatch opens. Armstrong, on all fours, crawls through its small space. He moves awkwardly in his moon cocoon. Outside, on the narrow porch, where a ladder is attached to one landing leg, he climbs to the bottom rung and stops. A TV camera placed in the Eagle's hatchway is pointed down. Sorry. Hundreds of millions of people are watching. I was one of them. I was watching it on TV. He jumps to the landing leg's round footpad. He holds on, he pauses, he points his foot, and he steps off. The surface is as fine as powdered charcoal. The treads of his boot leave a perfectly crisp print in the dust. On the weatherless moon, it will last for millions of years. His footprint is still there. His voice sounds staticky and far away. Now, I'll bet a lot of adults here know what, and maybe some of the children know what the words were that Neil Armstrong said. And if you do, say it with me. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. In orbit, Michael Collins listens and waits. Now it's Buzz Aldrin's turn. He climbs down, feeling full of goose pimples. Together, the astronauts go moonwalking. Flexing their toes and ankles, they walk stiffly, as if navigating inside a rigid balloon. But moving about is easier than they expect. So they twirl like in slow motion like tiptoe dancers. They jog. They kangaroo hop. Like two boys bouncing on a trampoline because of the moon's lesser gravity, they feel light as air. You imagine jumping and floating on the moon? You think it was fun? What do you think, Judy? Is it? Let me see. You were right. It's bigger, so I didn't notice. Thank you. Armstrong checks the time, but they must hurry. They have just, how long do you think they have? A long time? Take a guess. How long do you think they have on the moon? What do you think, Devin? 15 minutes, a little longer. More guess. How about Anna? What do you think? No, not quite that low, but this is not too long either. 2 hours. Seems like a little bit of time if you're going to explore the moon, for heaven's sakes. They use long metal tongs to collect rocks. Some are slippery with dust, and some sparkle. Some look tan or even purple. The rocks will go in 2 large boxes that the scientists will take back on Earth. They try to plant the American flag, but underneath the surface dust, the moon is hard like steel. They jab the pole into the hard crust. They twist and turn, leaning with it with all their might. At last, they are able to balance the staff, the pole, just barely. A rod across the top keeps the flag unfurled. Then click! Armstrong takes a picture of Aldrin saluting the flag. But a surprise call comes for the president. For a priceless moment, all the people on this earth are truly one. A tightness rises in the throats of the astronauts. They feel a part of something so much larger than themselves. Yet it is soon over, and they are inside again. This world is not theirs, not their own. Streaks of dirt cover their spacesuits. They smell like the moon dust, and it hits them when they remove their helmets. And it smells like spent cat pistols, they tell each other. They have been awake for 18 hours straight, but it feels like much more. Can they sleep now? Maybe. It's shivery cold in the cramped Eagle. Aldrin curls up on the floor, and Armstrong lies in a hammock stretched across the room. They are both exhausted. He looks up. Above them, there's an unshuttered porthole. The Earth stares down. Looks like a big blue eyeball, he thinks. He blinks back at the bright blue eye, then turns, and he tries to sleep. You think you could sleep? How many think you could just fall asleep after being on the moon? Yeah, I don't think so. Right? Pretty hard. July 21st, the next day. Now, unease, uncertainty. This is the part they're most afraid of. This is a place where things can go terribly wrong. Armstrong and Aldrin stand quietly in the tiny cockpit. Liftoff in 1 minute. Away from here, maybe. The Eagle will split into 2 parts. The upper half must fly away. The lower will stay on the moon, a permanent monument. Will the engine light? Will it keep on burning? They try to ease their worries, but there is no escape from this. No backing up, no doing it again, no second try. They know one thing only: failure means death. The second hand winds down. Now or never. Aldrin's voice cuts into the awful stillness. Let's count down for them. 3, 2, 1. Ascent means go up. At first, a frightening pause. What's happening? Then bang, whoosh, zoom. It feels as if the floor is coming up at them. The Eagle's top half rises like a fast-moving elevator. Its engine leaves a trail of wide, white light. The Eagle soars skyward, silently, faster and faster, 50 miles up, almost a mile a second. Aldrin glances sideways, nods and grins. Into the moon orbit, on our way. And here's what they left down on the moon. And that's still there now. Higher still, Michael Collins peers through his sextant, and this is what a sextant is. It's a nautical piece of equipment, and it measures from the sun. I thought it was the stars, but it's from the sun. If you want to pass that around, you may. Still waiting, where are they? That's how he's measuring. He scans the sky and sees, what do you think he sees? Only blackness. The Columbia has been circling now for over 20 hours from the far side of the moon. Collins cannot even radio back to the people on Earth. He squints through the sextant's eyepiece again. There, a tiny blinking light in the darkness. He locks his computer on the distant speck, tracking its approach. The eagle keeps climbing and climbing, up and up. It's like an intricate dance. Columbia leads, eagle follows, all at speeds of over 3,000 miles an hour. Now they fly in perfect formation, closer, closer. Collins punches hundreds of keystrokes to make the docking work. They touch, they connect. The capture latches snap shut. A small door opens into a tunnel. Look who's here! Welcome! Armstrong and Aldrin come floating through. They're back on the spaceship. It is the final orbit of the moon. Can a photo capture the wonder of what they've seen? Not likely. Still, the astronauts hover beside the Columbia's windows, taking pictures. The spacecraft accelerates. It curls around the moon's far edge. It's flung free like the tail-end skater in a game of crack the whip, like on ice skates when you kind of slap the person at the end of the line. The astronauts look back with a sad, happy feeling. Hours go by. They can rest at last. They sleep, read, talk, play music. Sometimes they glimpse the slowly receding moon. Was it all a dream? No, we were there. We were there. But mostly their eyes are fixed on another place. Blue, white, light brown, and shining below them. They want that more than anything. What do they want? Where do they want to go? Where do you think they want to go? You can say it. To Earth, yep, absolutely. A planet of oceans and rivers, of grass and green hills, a world of trees and family and friends. That's okay, you can hold it till I'm done, okay? You can hold it. Thank you. A place called Earth, fragile, beautiful, home. So, we're going to sing you out, but before we do, there's been a little change. We're not going downstairs to classes. We're going to follow Eric outside for field day. Okay? So first we're going to do the song to sing us out so we can all stand. We're going to sing it together, and then we'll all line up and go outside. And that means everybody, all ages.
I asked my children, who are now 62 and 65, whether they remembered me waking them up to watch the moon landing on television in Maine, and they did. So, we come now to that time in our service each week we call Matters of the Heart. This is a time to share the joys and sorrows, the small moments of happiness and the deepening concerns that reside within our hearts. You may always choose to submit something for Matters of the Heart anytime during the week by visiting uucy.org/moth, or you may fill out a slip on Sunday morning and set it up here on the pulpit before the start of the service. We will also read Matters of the Heart submitted in the Zoom chat by those who are joining online. We light a candle of appreciation for the many hands and hearts who offer their gifts of service. As we learn their names and faces, may we extend our gratitude to Katie for greeting us at the door, Carol for providing beautiful flowers, Kathy and Lynn for serving as ushers, Connie and I don't know who else, counting collection, Tess and Carla for brewing coffee, Charlie, Diane, Doug, and Sarah for keeping us online all over the world. We also take this moment to recognize the countless non-financial contributions that keep our congregation going. Each of us contributes to our congregation just by being here, by bringing your joy and your struggles, your questions, and your faith. May all those who labor remain unnamed, feel held by our expansive gratitude, and forgive us for our omissions. May we increase our awareness of all invisible ways we share in this sacred work. We light one final candle this morning for all that remains unspoken within your heart. It may feel too large or too small to share. You may not be ready to hear it read out loud. But please know that our community holds these with you in silence, even if the words never come. We honor all that we carry within us and know that the flame of our faith, kindled here, resides within us also at all times. So may it ever be.
Good morning. Yeah. Good morning. There we go. Great, I'm on. Good morning, I'm Joshua Long. I use he, him pronouns. I'm going to do a song with the choir called We Are Earth, the song that I wrote when I was finishing up seminary and I was doing a specialization in public theology around climate justice and faith. And I wrote this song because I do believe that we as human beings, we've had this idea of the past few centuries that we are separate from the earth, that what we do doesn't have consequence, and we know that is not true due to global warming, climate change, and just the main injustice going on in the world. So this song is called We Are Earth to say that we as human beings are actually a part of the earth. And I promise that my sermon will make sense. As we're talking about space and the earth, it will come together. So here we go. Tell our children that the mess we're living under started when the few spoke for everyone, because it's easy to feel distant when we feel so independent. We are hands and feet. So we demand a just and fair transition. creation. For the least of these, we are earth, living in you, sacred word to one
Beautiful. Thank you. Our reading today is a video recording of the words of Artemis II astronaut Christina Koch. This is an excerpt from the crew's first time speaking publicly since they splashed down.
That's true. I couldn't sleep this morning, so I did write some words down in my mind, and I'm going to try and share them with you today. 10 days ago, this journey started with our mission manager, Sean Duvall, knocking on my door in crew quarters and whispering, "Christina, we're going for launch. Get up." And it ended last night when my nurse on the ship put me to bed and said, "Ma'am, can I get a hug?" So, a lot has happened since then, but, or between those two moments, but the start and the end were human moments here on Earth. So several years ago, I was giving a speech and I was doing my usual talk about crew and crewmates and teamwork, and someone asked the question, what makes a crew? what is different about a crew than a team? And I was like, I got this. Opened my mouth confidently to tell them everything I knew about being a crewmate. And everything that came out of my mouth was completely without value. I was like, yeah, crews, they're in space, and they work together, but they eat together too, so, they're a crew. And boats have crews, you're a crew if you're on a boat. Helps if you have a paddle. That'll be good, that'll make you a crew. But the last 10 days, I've gotten a little bit of a better answer on that question. A crew is people, or, a group that is in it all the time, no matter what, that is stroking together every minute with the same purpose, that is willing to sacrifice silently for each other, that gives grace, that holds accountable. A crew has the same cares and the same needs, and a crew is inescapably, beautifully, dutifully linked. So when we saw Tiny Earth, people asked our crew what impressions we had. And honestly, what struck me, it wasn't necessarily just Earth, it was all the blackness around it. Earth was just this lifeboat hanging undisturbingly in the universe. Uh-oh. So, I may have not learned, I know I haven't learned, everything that this journey has yet to teach me. But there's one new thing I know, and that is, planet Earth, you are a crew. Thank you.
Planet Earth, you are a crew. That was Christina Koch, one of the mission specialists aboard the Orion spacecraft, part of the Artemis II mission that took place last month. And if I remember the last time I was here, I referenced space in my last sermon, that we're this new space race to the moon, that we're might be building a base there. And with this mission, it looks like it's a longer a mission to eventually go to Mars, which sounds really cool and sounds really crazy at the same time. I know some of you are surprised as an environmental and climate activist why I would be so excited about going to Mars. So I'll just make the disclaimer, I don't plan to escape to Mars with Jeff Bezos and his billionaire escape. I think that's ridiculous and just unethical, and that's the whole thing. I wanted to ask, actually, I'm going to try this out. How many actually watched the launch of Artemis II in April? That's a good amount of us. How many watched in 1969? All right. I can't put my hand up, I wasn't born. And then, how many could care less? Like, what's the big deal? You can be honest, that's okay. Because there's a question, why do we care about space? There's a lot going on here. Why should we care about it? So I'm hoping that this will come together in this sermon. This sermon is called Hope for Humanity and Beyond. And I want to start with, for myself, I did watch the launch. I had my kids and my family together, watching, because I thought it was just the coolest thing that these people were now going to be off the Earth. And growing up, I always liked looking at the stars. I thought, the idea of just the solar system, the galaxy, this was just really cool. When there was the eclipse about almost 10 years ago in 2017, my wife, we actually drove to Tennessee so we could experience the full eclipse. I definitely recommend this. If you've never done a full eclipse, look at the calendar and find the next one is, because it's definitely a lot of experience to try and have, even if it's a partial eclipse. But the full eclipse was cool is because it not only did it feel like it turned to night, but the bugs came out and you heard the insects. That was the coolest thing, was just like this switch happened. So just find all that really amazing. And even that is just one example of the interdependence of what goes on outside the Earth's atmosphere affects here. Just that small incident. But I want to show how humankind's ability to reach beyond planet Earth actually gives me hope for our capacity to care for our common home and each other. And I think Christina Koch shares some deep wisdom in these ideals. So there are 3 lessons I'm contemplating from the Artemis II mission. I consider them contrasting dualities. We can look introspectively and just reflect on them, and they may inform us how we can live here on Earth and with each other. So the first point I think I'm taking away, the first is what the Artemis II crew noticed. Looking out the window, they were flying past the moon. While they were flying past the moon, Christina called and she said, "Tiny Earth." Earth this small. They experienced the smallness of our home and then the vastness of the universe. Planet Earth, a small, tiny orb floating in space. She said it looks like a lifeboat. Made me think of Blue Boat Home. It is not a big planet, small. Compared to the giant gas planet Jupiter, Earth is a marble compared to a beach ball. And I was looking this up. It would take 1,300 Earths to fit into Jupiter just to equal its volume. But then we look at our star, the sun. You would need 1.3 billion Earths to make up the volume of the sun. Now, tiny Earth makes a lot of sense. There's some different angles we can look at this. In many ways, we could see tiny Earth as means that we're insignificant, ball suspended in space. And some could say that that has no meaning, because the universe will go on if we're just this one small ball orb floating around in the vastness of space. But I tend to look at it from a different standpoint, in this universe that is ever expanding and will go on for millions of years, even after humanity. What we do in this short time actually gets the deepest meaning because the universe is so big. And with that, it actually frees us up, knowing that the world, life will go on. And I find peace in that. I think we can find some peace. To say that we matter and we can let go because of just how big and vast the universe is. I was thinking of this reading in the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu. It says, "Fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife and it will be blunt. Chase after money and security and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval and you will be their prisoner. So do the work and then step back. It's the only path to serenity." There's something about taking good action without attachment that allows us to connect to the deepest parts of the universe. This is also something found in Buddhism. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha writes, "Furthermore, Subhuti, in the practice of compassion and charity, a disciple should be detached. That is to say, he should practice compassion and charity without regards to appearances, to form, to sound, smell, taste, touch, or any quality of kind. This is how the disciple should practice compassion and charity. Why? Because practicing compassion and charity without attachment is the way to reaching the highest perfect wisdom, is the way to becoming a living Buddha. How do we, end quote. So how do we do this work? How do we learn to step back and let go, trusting that in this vast universe, that somehow who we are, what we do, is still significant and yet insignificant at the same time? This tension, this is actually the perfect wisdom. This is the Tao. It's not meant to diminish our lives or to say that what we do is in vain, but rather is a way in which we can sustain ourselves through hard and difficult times and find a way forward. Detachment allows us to accept failure without success. Detachment allows us to accept failure without letting success lead us into arrogance. This is true humility. It's not weakness. It's not humiliation. But seeing ourselves as fully human in this larger story over billions and billions of years. So the first point was the tiny earth versus big universe. The second point I want to make, and this hits more close to home in what Christina was saying, this is our rugged individualism against a crew. The Artemis II folks didn't talk much about their individual point of view. If you go back and watch the entire press conference, they really shared about how they felt more connected to humanity and the rest of the earth from their experience. And I found that so fascinating that they were flying around the moon, for goodness sake, just in the vastness of space, and their thought was, I feel more human than ever. Captain Reed Wiseman, he named a crater after his late wife Carol, who lost her battle to cancer a few years ago. Jeremy Hansen represented our neighbors Canada to the north, and just how big this mission was, that was bigger than just one nation. And I found pilot Victor Glover. He talked about how he felt more connected to God. This is an astronaut saying from being in space, his faith was strengthened. And Christina talks about our shared humanity on this floating orb. It just goes against our ideas of, especially here in America, rugged individualism. This idea that our individual selves is the most important thing. When really our shared humanity is what's important. And somehow experiencing space, the cosmos, the galaxies, it seems one cannot help but see themselves in the other, to see themselves as part of a larger story. And I think about that as we feel invested in this as humans. Why do we feel, at least I'll speak for myself, why do I feel a sense of ownership? Like I went to space? I didn't go to space. But some reason, I feel as if we did this thing. It's this collective idea that we as human beings did that. And maybe in my lifetime, you'll be able to catch a red eye to the dark side of the moon one day. I don't think we're there yet. I do think maybe if we figure things out down here, maybe my kids, when they're much older. But this weird sense of collective that we have. But then I think about that because I think I'm always thinking about what's the other side of this, and even that we gets distorted, that collective we. Now, I'll get into this a little about sin. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't have a theology about original sin if you come from a conservative Christian background. But we do have this idea, if we are more theist-leaning, this idea of original blessing, that we are created for love, that we have worth and dignity. But there are bad things. We are free to do bad things. There are harms that happen. But even those harms, we have to think of them in the collective as well. In the Jewish scriptures, the book of Leviticus, it actually names all these sacrifices. This is nerdy theologian stuff. But it names all these sacrifices in the book of Leviticus. They say it's the most boring book of the Bible. I think it's one of the most fascinating ones. You just got to get through it. But it names all these ways in which the community atones and gives thanks to God. It's really not until the very end of these lists of sacrifices that it talks about the individual harms that are done intentionally. And I think it's making a point that our collective, what we do as a society, is so much more important. It gets in this idea, even in Buddhism, the illusion of separation, that we are way more connected than divided, that we are really not separate. And I thought about this as we praise the astronauts, as America thinks about NASA. We have a lot of America First language going on, but will we have the same enthusiasm if, say, China is the first to build a moon base? We have to think about our unconscious bias toward Western civilization and reflect on our shared humanity, especially with those across the globe. Contemplating the ways our species continue to see us as separated, to divide, to see us as not a part of the earth. If we stay too long, we can start to despair. We can start to look at the things that just continue to go wrong. I want to talk a little bit about despair, and that gets into my last duality. Because despair, I think, is a necessary and dangerous feeling. Necessary and dangerous emotion. Acknowledging our shortcomings without attaching ourselves to them. This third point is that despair, the opposite of despair is connected action. I didn't say hope, but I said connected action. The opposite of despair is not hope, but connected action. I believe that hope is a result of taking steps to connect with other human beings for the good of our planet. And our planet includes, as I said, the natural world, trees, mountains, oceans, and human beings. We are the earth. The illusion of separation is what brings us despair. Many religious traditions have placed human beings above all other parts of creation. There are many traditions today that still teach that. They say that the planet was given to human beings. We have the term natural resources comes out of that. But this false idea has led us to pollute the earth with no consequence for ourselves, not think about it, not think about how it affects other species. And for me, when I think about that, I fall into a little bit of despair. Those emotions do still show up. As I said, the opposite is connected action. And I want to share a little bit, getting close to the end, share a little bit of my own journey into this world of climate change and understanding it. When I was about 10 or 11 years ago, I had what I called the climate panic. Anyone have a climate panic? Can I identify with that? Yeah. It's the moment where you just start to feel the weight of the climate crisis and understand what it really means. For me, it was when President Obama got us into the Paris Climate Accords with the UN, and I was just like, no, there's no way every country agrees on something. And all the countries in the world agreed on this thing. that we had to do something about climate change. And that, are they willing to do something is different, but they agreed in that moment. In that moment, they agreed that yes, this is a problem, and they acknowledged it. And that really got me thinking, what is this thing? Why, maybe I should be concerned about it. And going down the rabbit hole, understanding like, oh, this has implications not just for warming weather, but it really has implications for social justice. It has implications for our food, water, where we live. And so those feelings lead me to this place of panic. But when I think about panic and despair, I think it's one thing to feel it. We should feel the feelings, but we can't stay there. Can't stay there. We must not allow us to get stuck there. And the way out of that despair is to take connected action, to find others who care about this thing that you care about, and to join them into working for the world you wish to see. So as I said, my world is Climate World. I work for an organization called Interfaith Power and Light. I'll share about it in a second, but our actions cannot be siloed. It gets into our values of interdependence and interconnection. We must acknowledge the spark of the divine in all living and non-living things. And that is how we make progress in reversing global warming and building a sustainable world that uplifts humans and non-human creation. So what does that mean for this community here in New York, us as UUs? Well, first, as I said, I work for Interfaith Power and Light. I'm a congregational organizer in Maryland, DC, Virginia affiliate. There's a Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light. I left the sign-up sheet out in the visitor desk if you want to get more information from Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light. They're wonderful colleagues, and they do a lot of really good work with faith communities. You'll get to see there's a lot of other people concerned about these issues. There are many things we can also do right here. As I said, I really enjoy, I didn't say this before, I'll tell you, I have a hybrid. I love my hybrid. I love driving. And that's an individual thing that I can do. And then I can also look at the ways that, how am I supporting more greening ways that we're making our things? Are our supply chains ethical? A lot of materials that are needed to make solar panels and EVs and batteries. There are some questions about the ethics of exploitation in places like Africa and South America, and even here. Are there ways that we're making our food chains ethical? Are there ways in which we can use our time, talent, resources to give back to community? Yes, we change the things that we do at home, but then we join others in doing the same. So as I close, we're going to read those 3 points. Big universe, tiny earth. But then that rugged individualism in a crew will always top rugged individualism. And that the way out of despair is collective action. Do not attach yourselves to outcomes, but rather align yourself with others who share your values and vision for a world made more beautiful, just, and whole. And as Christina, the Artemis II mission reminds us, that we, all living things on earth, are a crew. Amen. We're going to sing our responsive hymn. It's going to be Blue Boat Home. 1064 in the teal hymnal. By your spirit. Floating
We now invite you into generosity as we collect our weekly offering. Each week, we commit to share our offering with a community organization that upholds our values. This month, our Share the Plate partner is our Period Products Project, a collaboration between UUCY's Social Justice Committee and St. Paul's Food Pantry. Now beginning our 4th year, this project has made sure our neighbors have access to essential menstrual products, something so basic yet life-changing for those who struggle to afford them. Period poverty is a hidden health crisis. When people can't access the products they need, they miss work, school, and daily life. No one should have to choose between food and dignity. May is Period Poverty Awareness Month. Your gift today helps restore dignity, ease financial strain, and remind our community that no one is alone. The shape of justice can be simple as a pad, period. The ushers will now collect the offering. If this is your first time visiting with us, please feel free to let the basket pass you by. Your presence is a gift.
Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. The bird that sings when the dawn is still dark. When the dawn is dark, faith is the bird that feels the light. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light, that feels the light and sings, that feels the light and sings, that feels the light and sings, and sings when the dawn is dark.
Oh, faith is the bird that
Faith is the bird,
feels the light and
faith is the bird,
sings when the dawn is
faith is the bird, oh, faith is the bird that feels the light. It is the bird that sings when the dawn is dark. And sings when the dawn is still dark. Faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. Oh, faith is the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light, the bird that feels the light.
Please join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices if you have lit them with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
For our benediction, I want to repeat these words from the Buddha in the Diamond Sutra. In the practice of compassion and charity, a disciple should be detached, that is to say, should practice compassion and charity without regard to appearances, without regard to form, without regard to sound, smell, taste, touch, and any quality of kind. This is how a disciple, or as UUs, should practice compassion and charity. Why? Because practicing compassion and charity without attachment is the way to reaching the highest perfect wisdom, is the way to becoming a living Buddha. Amen.
And for our freedom, yes, we have courage. We are the healers. Like the sun, we shall rise. So, you'll pick it up. Why don't you join us? We are alive as the earth is alive. We have the power to stand for our freedom. Yes, we have courage. We are the healers. Like the sun, we shall rise. Yes, we have courage. We are the healers. Like the sun, we shall rise. We are alive as the earth is alive. We have the power to stand for our freedom. Yes, we have courage. We are the healers. Like the sun, we shall rise. Yes, we have courage. We are the healers. Like the sun,